Hey there, and welcome to another episode of One Email, Two Takes. I'm Will Allred, and I'm joined by my co-host, Christina Fensa. If you're not familiar with One Email, Two Takes, it is the weekly sales hacker show where Christina and I take emails that are either sent to us, like last week's email, or have been submitted to us for feedback, like this week's email. And we offer our perspective, but we also offer rewrites. We offer our takes on how we would rewrite these messages. Why should you listen to this? Why should you listen to our opinions about these emails? Well, I'm Will Allred. I'm one of the co-founders at a company called Lavender. We see millions of emails on a monthly basis. And so I've got a lot of data points that I can point back to when I'm making edits on emails. I've got a few for this week's, but Christina is an advisor with us. I'll let her introduce herself, of course.
Yeah, as we have like all these noises in the background, pardon us as we are working as well. Again, Christina, I'm an advisor to Lavender. I'm also senior manager of outbound growth marketing for a wonderful company called Greenhouse. So I get to work very closely with the sales side of the business. So lots of email optimization and writing. And I do it on the side too, because it's fun and I like it.
I
So
was
they
going
are.
to say, Christina's coming absolutely changed my perspective on a few different types of emails, as well as written some emails at Lavender that have been very successful. So without further ado, though, I will share the email from
Again.
this week. So um, the title of this week's episode is Talk With Me, Not At Me. So this is an email that was submitted to me for review. As you can see here in the PS line, I give you permission to rip this email apart. And it's got some challenges. I do think there's some things that are good about it, but let's talk through it. So, hey, Will, machine learning (ML) creation can be an overwhelming adventure. After throwing resources into complicated algorithms, organizations like Company One, Company Two, Company Three, and Company Four turned to our company to speed their R&D pipeline and go to market faster. Company is augmenting developers and product teams' ability to optimize their solutions with real-world data. The process of building, deploying, and scaling ML applications is easier and faster than ever. We'd love to learn how we can help you too. Are you considering using ML in the next 12 months? Continuously learning the rep. I love the continuously learning. It's like an ML joke. Uh, so Christina, I'm curious to get your feedback on this. I've got a few things, but I'm curious, like, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like absolutely hate it. I do feel like it is an example of what I would consider more marketing heavy with a lot of the fluff and terminology like, we're making it easier and faster than ever. And I feel like there was just a lot of big words. I get that the target audience is probably very familiar with these words, but with that said, then if you know it's your target, I think you can probably get away with saying things like ML from the get-go or things like that. So I feel like it's a little overly complicated. But there are a couple of components that I actually baked into my rewrite that I pulled directly from this copy. So
Nice.
yeah, I don't hate it. It's lengthy. I think it could
Yeah.
be condensed for sure, but just mostly big words. If it's your audience and your audience is living and breathing this, you could probably get away with using whatever slang or terminology they're familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing too is like, yeah, a lot of jargon. I felt like some of these things could have definitely been condensed down. The other thing that I noticed, and yeah, sort of pointing back to the data that we have, the the start of this email feels very informative, right? It takes this tone of like talking at you, and it creates what you referred to, Christina, as this like marketing-y feel. And when I think about like what's a sales email versus what's a marketing email, that's a huge component, is this idea of like I'm talking at you versus I'm trying to have a conversation with you. And so, while ML creation can be an overwhelming adventure, it might seem like I'm like trying to speak to a problem. It kind of feels on the other end like you're telling me something I already know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. It's like if you reach out to a marketer and you say SEO optimization is very important. And they're like, yeah, I know. Also, SEO optimization is kind of redundant because that's what the O stands for. But the point being is, yeah, what you're getting into here is like you're creating this tone of I'm talking at you. Tell me if this is a priority. And you'll catch some folks with messaging like this, right? I mean, if they're in the market for a solution, it's great. But the problem is like most people aren't in the market for a solution. They're not even necessarily thinking about it. And so like how do you get a larger percentage of those in market and those that might potentially want to move into the market? They just hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do you
Yeah.
think we sufficiently rip this apart?
Yeah. I mean, there's great stuff to this
There
email.
is.
Like I love the question at the end. I probably wouldn't get into like the we'd love to. I think some of this messaging can be condensed, but I think it's good. All right, I'm curious
Last
to.
point, last point too, 4 company examples is overkill. Don't do it.
Good point.
I just wanted to say that. I was like, dang, okay. Is this just because you want to keep it applicable to anyone who reads it? Or like just get a little bit more tight there. I would only do like up to 2, and make sure that they're as close to some sort of either it's a competitor or in the same wheelhouse, size wise, etc. That you could use there.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Your segmentation can give you a lot of opportunity there
Yep.
to narrow down that list. That's a long sentence that
Rude.
doesn't necessarily need to be as long. Okay, let's dig into yours, Christina.
Yeah. So I'm not kidding. I literally took 2 parts that were in that email and used them in this.
I
Work
love it.
smarter, not harder. So I basically tried to keep it pretty conversational here, but a lot shorter, as you can tell. So,
Mhm.
Will, are you considering using ML in the next 12 months? Curious because we're already helping blank and blank. So obviously 2 examples here. Speed up R&D pipeline and go to market faster. And then I just have that little carrot. If you're working through this now, hoping it's timely, right?
Mhm.
Perhaps, oh, I forgot a space there. But perhaps our company can be a resource. Let me know. Continuously learning because I love that sign off.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's good. That's a
rep.
great sign off.
Yeah, so I just kept the question at the top, and then just kind of kept it as a soft call to action at the end, like, maybe we can be a resource. And then this just tees me up for follow-ups where I can add value resources as a way to kind of circle back up, right? So
Yeah.
this is where I'm at.
Yeah, I love the soft CTA. You're crushing the data, which is, 2 questions does not perform as well as one. Um,
Got that from
so,
you and lavender data, so you've
yeah,
changed my perspective just as much.
it's great. I mean, this is literally like exactly what we talked about. If we condense down this original note, this is what you come with. And it's, yeah, the same idea, just
Yeah,
probably much more effective. Um, so I took a sneak peek at your email before I wrote mine. And so I was like, okay, you did a more like scaled approach, taking the message that at large. I decided to showcase a couple different approaches for how you could personalize the approach. So with engineers, I think there's sort of 2 really interesting opportunities to personalize. One is with what they've built. The second is like with their experience at large. So with what they've built, you think about like the inbox is their to-do list, right? For managing external vendors, managing, potential flare-ups with clients that they have to deal with. And so, this is really trying to get at like, okay, how do I show up and speak to, something that's on their to-do list? And one of the easiest ways to get them in the context of that is to talk about what they do on a daily basis, which is the thing that they're building. And so I wrote this as though I was reaching out to Casey, our CTO at Lavender. And so I'm like, I was checking out what you're building at Lavender, Casey. Talking with other quick growing teams, I hear a similar trend. On paper, we should have great ML infrastructure, but we don't have time to maintain it as we build. Are you seeing similar trade offs? So, approaching it very conversationally, but very much so like, hey, given your stage, given what you're building, yeah, is this something that you can relate with? Because we can take some things off your plate. It's kind of implied. Um, and the idea is to like open up that conversation or set the stage for a follow-up email where you can provide a little bit more context. So that's the first approach. The second approach is to approach with their experience. So if you think about like past engineering experience, they've built things before that might be applicable for you to pull into the conversation, right? So like I just used Google as a example of like a past employer. They're like, hey, given your time at Google, is it fair to assume establishing ML pipelines was part of why XYZ company brought you in? As I'm sure you know, this can be more work than expected. Our helps teams speed this up. That way you can get to model optimization faster. Worth a chat to seeing how you could apply this at your company. So the content itself is flexible, right? You could change this out, adjust the messaging itself. But the point is like how you're approaching and how you're trying to build connection and conversation. Kind of laughing because I'm like going against the advice that I or the data points that I just shared with you and yours. But like two different approaches to personalizing this approach.
Dang. Well, first of all, I just have to call it what it is. Dang overachiever, writing two rewrites and cheating by looking at mine first, but
I
whatever.
I did. I
Um,
did.
but I do like this, and I like the two approaches you took. I definitely like the first one a lot. Because like you said, it is conversational, and there's also, aside from the implied, like obviously we help with this, right? Anyone can kind of figure that out, but I like the fact that you pulled in the talking with other quick growing teams because you're just showing and building trust that you're already having these conversations and this is what you're hearing. And, that's a huge point that I try to make in some of our outreach too is, just building that trust that, hey, I'm talking to people like you and I know what's going
Yeah.
on. And I want to gut check that. Like, are you seeing the same? I love this approach completely. So
Yeah. Well, and there's two aspects to that that I'm trying to tie into. One is on the surface, people tend to believe things at first glance. And so, I can avoid using four different, massive company names. That's, gonna get me just as far. Yeah, the other thing is like, just because you drop the names doesn't mean that they're familiar with them, etc. Yeah, the aspects of what your technology does isn't necessarily building the credibility you think it is compared to showcasing like an understanding of a current situation. Um,
yeah. Well, and what I also like is that your approach one there is definitely scalable with a company
yeah, totally.
personalization token. The second one would require just a little bit more,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
you got to go like past employer,
yep,
and then you got to pull in like,
whatever, yeah,
task
whatever,
at hand that like would be
yeah.
relevant. Yeah,
I think
the
a little bit
segmentation.
more.
Yeah, the segmentations you'd probably want to run would be um, how recently they came into the role.
Yeah.
So if they're net new in the past like 6 months, I would say establishing versus like if they'd been in the role for a while, yeah, it would be more towards like optimization. And then like it's a slightly different template attached to
Yeah, I love this. Well, listen, we gave 3 rewrites.
it.
So there you go. And hopefully the person who submitted it, I hope that you respond back with this recording. But
Yeah.
yay, please submit more too. And in order, if you're liking what we're putting down, I think we're pretty much near episode 40, if not very, very, very close. It might even be like the next one, if I'm counting right in my head. Uh, you can tune
If
in
we're counting.
obviously on Sales Hacker YouTube channel. We're always there. But the best way to get this too is signing up for the Sales Hacker newsletter. And we'll be right in your inbox every Tuesday as part of that newsletter. So
Yep. Yep.
sign up.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to mention, just Christina, I really liked the way you just like simplified down that original email, right? It's hard sometimes to like try to figure out what to cut. So, make sure you go back, watch how Christina did that, because I think it's really good lesson for everyone when it comes to writing emails, right? I mean, the data shows that shorter, simpler emails get more response. And so if you can do what Christina did to that original email, just throughout your cadences, sequences, etc., like you're gonna see a lot of success. So until next time. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.